What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So if you missed it over the weekend, talked about a very interesting PlayStation patent that you might want to check into because it could show us really some ideas around what the PlayStation 5 may use for its storage. Then also we talked on the Spawncast about Death Stranding for quite a bit of time. It was very interesting, and a few things about Pokemon. Today, though, we have to go over a leak for GoldenEye. Yeah, do you remember we had GoldenEye Remastered? It kind of showed up online back in 2016. Well, a former Rare employee actually leaked some pretty serious information online that we're talking about here today, because maybe the dream is not dead yet for a GoldenEye remaster. Maybe put out there. We'll see about all that. And then we have to talk about a new game from Nintendo. Just randomly put out there. Just introduced. Here you go, and released. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure to hit the like button. It does help out. And get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're going to start with the UK sales charts, mostly because it does show us where Death Stranding ranks there in its first, a few days of sales. It's actually not too bad. Second place, because, of course, Call of Duty is still on that list. Still fairly new. Call of Duty sells really, really well every single year, so it's not surprising to see it at the top, especially over a new IP game that's still kind of it's definitely polarizing, right? It's not like, oh, we know what this is exactly. People probably had to decide what they wanted to pick up, but it's still trailing behind even Days Gone. So Death Stranding is the second best PlayStation 4 game in the UK currently this year in terms of sales, about 36% behind Days Gone when it debuted. So it still has a bit of a climb there. I'm curious how it'll do in the MPDs. I don't think this is going to be a massive success for Sony. They might lose a little bit of money on their investment. We'll see. But so far, it's at least doing okay in the UK. And then, of course, we should see some numbers out of Japan as well. Also, do you remember how we had that invite system kind of introduced onto the Switch with the last update, a major update, where they had like a spot where you could see your invites to games, but nothing really used it? Well, we have our first game that does actually use that system. It's Divinity 2. Person took to Reddit actually explaining how all of this worked, and it works about how you'd expect. You invite somebody, they go to that list, it shows up there. If they pick it, it will then launch the game and then drop you into their game through the invite. It is a system that we've had pretty much on most systems for a while now. But on the Switch, which is still really struggling, I think, to get its online features in order, especially since we're coming up on the third year being complete for this system. That'll be in March. It is a little surprising that, the fact that an invite system works on the system with a game is news. But hey, if you have Divinity 2, go ahead, try it out. It should work in that menu system, and at least we're starting to see some games start to use it, and we'll see, hopefully, other ones get introduced that also use it. And I don't know if they'll ever go back and maybe do a patch to any older games for online multiplayer that would be able to use that. We'll see. I think Doom Eternal, that would make a lot of sense for something like that, but if older games aren't going to use it and all we can do is look forward, that's kind of a shame, I think. Also, if you're someone who has been looking forward to what we assume is going to be Grand Theft Auto 6 or the sequel to Grand Theft Auto 5, Rockstar North is actually hiring right now. Check this out. This is the page they put up for an animation systems programmer. And in the job listing, they talk about next generation hardware and for them to be developing for a massive open world game. I wonder what massive open world game they'd be developing for the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Scarlet. Probably Grand Theft Auto 6, although I'll admit I'm surprised that it wouldn't necessarily come out on the PS4 and the Xbox One, as they did that with the 360 and the PS3, where Grand Theft Auto 5 came out there, and then it also went to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And it's possible they could still do that in this position, maybe just to get that game also moved to the PS5 and the Scarlet, where there would probably be a year between them or so, maybe 2 years, and they would add some new feature to the PS5 and Xbox Scarlet version. I think I'd prefer that because, it's just more people to sell to, but then also people who maybe don't want to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Scarlet immediately, because there probably will be a bit of a gap period where, all the games are still in development from first-party studios. At least they can still play it. But yeah, Grand Theft Auto 6, would that be shocking? No. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's talk about Nintendo's brand new game. This was interesting. They announced it, and then, hey, it's out today. It's called The Stretchers. You play as a medic, and this is interesting. It's an action puzzle game, and you pretty much go through and rescue people. And what's really funny is you drive around in your ambulance. And the thing that's really, really interesting about this is the developer and publisher. The publisher is obviously Nintendo, as it appears to be their game, but the developer is actually the same developer that did Little Nightmares, Tarjay Studios, and I was a bit surprised to hear. I was a bit surprised to hear about a game like this come out randomly and then just, come out and it's ready. $19.99. Just get dropped on the eShop, no real build up or anything. But $20, and it is a cool idea. I don't think it was going to be something that would be displayed outside of maybe like an indie direct, although it is Nintendo's game, so maybe they want to throw it into a big, Nintendo Direct. However, Nintendo's done this with a couple of things where they announced it on Twitter and it's coming out that week or it's out now, and it's something we've seen with the Switch. I feel like more than any system recently are all these shadow drops. Now, I did download the game. I have not had time to play it with all the Death Stranding I've been playing, but when I did take a look at it, it looks similar to, like, the art style looks like Overcooked almost, and people have been saying that the ambulance levels are kind of like Crazy Taxi in a way where you just drive around your ambulance smashing through things. And what I also noticed is that the world kind of does this thing where it rotates around, kind of like Animal Crossing, how that has looked. So it's kind of a neat thing to see. Again, it's interesting to see Nintendo go out and get developers like this. They publish it, and then it comes out at $19.99 on the same day they announce it. This game has actually been sitting around on their servers for quite a while, as a person on Twitter managed to find this one here, where it was actually up on their servers May 29th. So before summer set in, this game was uploaded, and then they just now announced it. Also makes you wonder, what else do they have sitting on their server that is not ready to go yet, or they don't deem it ready to go yet? They're just waiting to, I guess, flip a switch, and then it's just available. Something to think about. Next up, let's talk about Tencent and Nintendo. Of course, they have a partnership to launch the Switch in China, but Tencent seems to want a little bit more than that, actually a lot more than that. And when the Wall Street Journal reported on this, I was a bit surprised as to how far Tencent wanted to go with this whole thing. Would you want Tencent making games with Nintendo's characters? Because Tencent wants to. This is what they said. What we want is to expand from China, and one target is console game players in the US and Europe. We hope to create console games with Nintendo characters and learn the essence of making console games from Nintendo engineers. And they follow up with a very ominous statement saying Nintendo games are not constructed to make people pay a lot of money. Tencent, of course, very well known being out of China for, of course, a lot of their cell phone games that they do, and they have large investments in, just all of Riot Games. They just straight up own them, but they have large investments in, we have Epic Games, and they have a smaller investment in Ubisoft and a ton of other companies out there. Tencent is quietly trying to almost take over the world, it seems. They are very, very large. Very large. So to hear that they like the idea of being able to use Nintendo's characters to create console games so that they can get better and they can learn from the Nintendo engineers, this is a little concerning. I'm curious to hear Nintendo's take on this one. Nintendo is very protective of their intellectual property. So much so, I'm surprised they even have some of them on some of these cell phone games, right? But I guess they figure we'll attack that cell phone market going forward because it's more money, of course. And we all like to assume that money will go into making better games. And they're at least making good games for consoles like the Switch. So we kind of just say, okay, yeah, keep the cell phone stuff over there. Just keep making good games like we just saw Luigi's Mansion 3 come out. But I don't really know if we need Tencent messing around with Mario and Luigi and trying to do something with Pokemon even, and convincing Nintendo that, hey, Nintendo Game Freak Pokemon Company, you should let us deal with all of that. We can take care of Pokemon on cell phones and everything. We'll deal with all that. Oh, Mario? We'll make the next Mario game. How about that? Because that statement that Nintendo doesn't try to make a ton of money from like a ton of money, like microtransactions, is kind of what came to mind there. I go, well, we don't really need Tencent attempting that with Mario. That would actually hurt Nintendo's characters. And this is all from Tencent's side. I wonder if Nintendo will comment on any of this out of the Wall Street Journal reporting this, because if they don't, that might be a little concerning that you could eventually see a game pop up and Tencent's logo is on like the splash screen. Ooh, that'd be something. Next up, let's talk about this GoldenEye Remaster leak. Now, back in 2016, kind of out of nowhere, it popped up on YouTube, just GoldenEye Remastered, and it was a bunch of gameplay. It's like 30 minutes. And I was looking at this, I said, this is amazing. Why didn't we ever get this? And then I remembered, okay, yeah, Nintendo and Microsoft probably couldn't come to an agreement. There is a whole story about how apparently there was some infighting going on and they couldn't figure out the rights and distribution of revenue and all of this stuff going on in the background. But apparently they pretty much finished this game. Like, I think somewhere in Rare headquarters right now, or their studios, this game is done. Like, it's just sitting there and they're trying to figure out what they can do with it, if anything, because of all the rights holders. I'm sure there's actors, likenesses, and all of this stuff as well, which was all touched on when a former Rare employee uploaded a ton of stuff online. It all got ripped down. So I'm not going to show you that, but I can show you some of the 30 minutes worth of YouTube video for the original leak back in 2016. I'll leave a link down below if you want to look into that. Then there's also an archive link, I'll say, floating around on Twitter right now that has all of this stuff. And what this is apparently a documentary that was going to be on Rare Replay. Yeah, think about that. You almost had GoldenEye Remastered HD, similar to how Perfect Dark HD Remastered, think of that, on Rare Replay, to the point where they had filmed entire documentaries kind of describing the process of creating GoldenEye Remastered. That's how close we were. They were working on a story telling us about the story of how this thing came to be. That blows my mind. And apparently, like, Sean Connery has talked about how his likeness held things up, and we heard about how there was a toggle switch to look between the old visuals and the new visuals. It's insane to think we were this close. And on top of that, we had a whole bunch of new raw footage, like straight up. It is the cleanest we've seen of this game so far. So I would go check all of that out. But then the question comes down to now, will we ever see this game if it really is done? That's a former Rare employee that put this stuff up, which means this stuff is just sitting in Rare Studios right now. And like I said, I'm sure the game, because from what I've even heard, the game's done. Like, it's complete. Probably, I mean, it probably needs some like QA, you know, some quality assurance, some bug checking or something. It's out there. Like, it's ready. However, Nintendo, Microsoft, and probably some other, I assume, licensing would have to be figured out, but it seems to be Nintendo and Microsoft being the two big players here. I mean, new Super Lucky's Tale just launched on the Switch. I mean, Cuphead's on the Switch. Ori's on the Switch. Maybe GoldenEye could come out as a multi-platform release between the Xbox and the Switch if they all come to an agreement. That would be amazing. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it is curious that this former Rare employee decided to start uploading this stuff to YouTube almost as like a cry out saying, don't forget about this game. It leaked in 2016. It's still out there. Don't forget about it. Hey, you know what? Microsoft, Nintendo, that would be one of those like hit the roof moments during a Direct or during XO where they say, hey, GoldenEye HD Remastered, it's coming to platforms and you could pick it up today. But something to think about. You never know with GoldenEye Remastered. I would go and seek out some of those links, check out the footage, and the documentaries are pretty cool as well. And in our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about a project that WB has been working on for quite some time. And we have new information about this. This is something that's been floating around for a bit now, thought of as rumored, but then it's kind of become more and more clear because I think they are still working on it, and that's WB and a Superman game. Remember, we've heard about this a couple of times. Apparently, the Superman game has been in development like 2 or 3 times now, and there was a very large Twitter thread as more information started to come out from different sources that were, we'll say, under NDA, all right? So you'll see some of this here. This is from James Sigfield, and this is from Geeks Worldwide, where they're associated with. They said WB has been actively trying to develop an open-world Superman game since 2013, and they go on in a fairly large Twitter thread that I will link down below describing several development cycles, basically trying to figure out how they can make it work. Several times the project was scrapped, and at this point, apparently trying to figure out new ideas and different ways to make it happen from different people within the industry, probably looking for somebody who can come in and make it happen or make it work. That's the thing though, Superman, while obviously he's very powerful, that would actually probably be kind of a difficult game to create that is like interesting enough. I mean, you could make, you know, you really powerful and you run around, you destroy everything, but a lot of times you want, I guess, a character that has to at least go through some conflict of some kind, and that's the thing. You could do the basics where you take his powers away and he has to get them back. it's tough. It really is. And it seems like they've been struggling with it because one of their ideas was a massive, massive open world metropolis. That sounds great. Flying around, as Superman, it might kind of harken back to the days of Spider-Man 2 releasing and your web swinging around as Spider-Man back then. So, it would be interesting to see. I don't know if it'll happen this generation because it sounds like they've been kicking this around for a while and they keep restarting development cycles. It's also possible it never happens, but Superman and video games should go together well, and I have a feeling they don't want to let that property go because, well, Batman does really well, so why not Superman? And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one is from Snake Eater saying, extra news, the Skate trademark has been abandoned by EA, rip Skate. So there was a lot of news going around about that. Skate had its trademark up, EA abandoned it. They actually had a couple of trademarks for Skate, and one of them they abandoned, the other one they renewed for the next 10 years. So they still have the Skate trademark for quite a while. Unfortunately, I don't know if Skate is even being worked on right now, which is crazy to me because Skate 4 would be great to see, but there's been a lot of word and a lot of rumors going around about how it was going to happen, then it didn't, and it's been shelved, and who knows at this point. We heard about it so many times leading into E3, and then nothing ever happened. So I'm going to be very, very cautiously optimistic about anything Skate going forward because while it'd be great to see it, EA is a mess as it is, to me. So, who knows? It seems easy, but it's EA. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure you hit the like button. It does help out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's the Superman game that WB apparently keeps trying to work on. How would you make a Superman game and make it interesting? We'll say that. Also, what about Nintendo's new game, the Stretchers, or what about GoldenEye HD Remastered? Would you like to see that happen and see a multi-platform release just on the Xbox? Maybe it's on Nintendo 64 Classic? A lot of possibilities there. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.